Week 11 of 2020, a little more than 1 year ago, everybody painfully watched the future of the Cincinnati Bengals crumple to the ground. In a worst-case scenario, Joe Burrow had torn his ACL and MCL so viciously and so late into the season, his sophomore year availability was instantly called into question. There were major concerns of how he could rehab in time to come back full go for the 21 season, but also questions of the viability of his long-term success with this offensive line. He'd been sacked a league-leading 32 times when he got injured, and the O-line was arguably the worst in the league. The team finished 4-11-1, their franchise guy's leg was all torn up, and they went into the offseason with one primary need: offensive line. But when the draft rolled around with the 5th overall pick, the Bengals took a wide receiver, Burrow's teammate at LSU, Jamar Chase. Sure, the duo was awesome together at LSU, but the Bengals were clowned for not selecting an offensive lineman. Well, now the joke's on everybody else. The team is 10-7 and headed to the AFC Championship. Burrow has ascended into the top 5 quarterback discussion, and Chase just won Offensive Rookie of the Year, catching 81 balls for 1,450 yards, 13 touchdowns, and that's not even including going for 100+ in his first 2 playoff games, which no rookie has ever done. He and Burrow really do have a special connection, and despite Burrow taking a league-high 51 sacks, and taking 9 more against the Titans, he and Chase have led the Bengals back to a place they haven't been in literally 3 decades. Chase has put up unprecedented numbers because he's unprecedented. Usually the coordinator is scheming up looks to deploy his biggest weapon, but that's not how the Bengals have operated. They've put it all on his plate to win on his own. Before we look at how he does that and what makes the Burrow-Chase connection tick, I want to once again thank this week's sponsor, Albert. Albert is a new kind of money management banking app that isn't quite like anything you've used before. They combine banking, savings, investing, and budgeting into just one place instead of using a bunch of different apps for each. They're not like traditional banks that charge you $35 overdraft fees, charge you for having a checking and savings account, or make you wait hours on hold to talk to a real-life human. Albert takes all of those issues, turns them on their head, and makes them, well, better. They have a team of financial experts they call geniuses that look at your situation and help you make a plan to better save, invest, and maximize your money. They're here at any time for questions if you get stuck, and work hard to make sure you make great decisions. Albert is free to sign up for, it helps you save automatically, you get 5 to 20% cash back on purchases from places like McDonald's, Walmart, Starbucks, all those kind of spots. They never charge you overdraft fees ever, and there's 0 delay when you request your money. If you want to find a better and more efficient way to go about your banking, all you have to do is click the link in the description box to download the Albert app today. For a limited time, when you open an account and connect a qualifying direct deposit, you'll get $150 just like that. So, what makes this duo so dynamic? The answer can be best described in 2 ways: simplicity and an uncommon psycho connection. Chase plays outside on the left or right 82% of the time, and when he's one-on-one, there's not much to their scheme. Burrow is throwing him the ball, especially on one particular route, the fade, where Chase has produced the most catches, yards, and yards after the catch of anybody in the league. Their chemistry goes back to their LSU days, and covered or not, Burrow is throwing Chase the rock, like, no matter what. The only way, I guess, the Bengals scheme things up for him is by isolating him away from the 3 receiver trip stuff they do. Defenses have been, for whatever reason, more scared of that side of their formations than putting an extra safety over the top of Chase, and on this play where he's called the alert receiver, Burrow can either read his concept side over here or go with the alert one-on-one. Zach Taylor has done a good job of really just getting out of the way between the pair, keeping everything simple and not overcomplicating things, allowing their connection to cook. He'll either use these isolated 3x1 trip sets to get Chase one-on-one, or dial up what's known as 9-8-9 or doubles to get Chase what's essentially an ISO matchup, like here against the Raiders in the wild card. The play is known in some systems as 9-8-9 because of the Air Coryell route numbering system, where the 9s refer to the goes or fades outside, and the 8s refer to a post. But the thing about that post is that based on where the safeties are, it can convert into a dig. Since the Raiders are playing cover 1 robber with a middle of the field safety, you wouldn't want to run your receiver on a post route into where he's playing, so Tyler Boyd has the option to break down in front of him. If he stays over Boyd, that means Burrow has one-on-one matchups outside with T. Higgins and Chase, and he's taken that Chase matchup every single time. He's become a savvier route runner over the season, learning how to attack defensive coverages and where the corner's blind spots are based on their responsibility. So defenses are a little more worried about playing off coverage based on that, and also because of his ability to catch screens or hitches and blow the game wide open. His skill making plays after the catch is unbelievable and is what adds depth to his game, but his trademark really is everything he can do outside on fade routes and doing whatever necessary to come down with the catch. What makes him special is that he actually doesn't create a ton of separation on these fades, whether it be from his release or when he's actually running the route. His release package is extremely unique, but doesn't always mean he creates a lot of room between him and the defender, which still works because he's so incredible in the air. Almost every other receiver's release package falls into several defined buckets, but his style of getting off the line is more similar to Davante Adams, where he's freestyling every single play and never repeating a release twice. The Chiefs kept leaving poor Charvarius Ward on him one-on-one in press, and so Chase went to work on him and chopped him up. Usually receivers are pushing off their back foot to gain momentum into their first step to get to top speed, but he almost always drops his back foot to set up corners in his own special way. He throws his body inside to sell the slant, then goes back outside into his fade. He generally doesn't do a great job holding the red line to give Burrow a lot of space to throw, and he doesn't really beat Ward here. As Burrow's about to begin his motion, he sees Chase hasn't beat him, but feels that Ward is playing the back shoulder ball. He is in really good position, so Burrow senses that he should throw it just out in front, and Ward cannot believe it. The Chiefs left a match on Chase one-on-one all day, and it just wasn't fair. He finished this game with a casual 11 catches for 266 yards and just 3 touchdowns, but the Chiefs kept blitzing Burrow, leaving Ward in hell. Here he's leveraged inside of Chase, which is a pretty clear indicator he's one-on-one with no safety over the top. Usually receivers try to fake release inside to hold the corner there to create room up the sideline, but Chase uses his drop step, kinda hops in the air similar to Davante Adams, and then speeds up the sideline. He's really not a big separation guy, but he and Burrow are so freaking good together. He does a better job of pushing into Ward a bit to create space up the sideline, and even though they're even, which would typically mean Burrow throws it deep and over the top, he still goes back shoulder since their connection there is absolutely ridiculous and feels impossible to defend. But the fade and back shoulder stuff isn't the only thing that makes them good. In what was Chase's, I guess really second best game to date against the Ravens in Week 7, Baltimore did everything in their power to stop the fade, so Chase adjusted in-game. The Ravens stuck Marlon Humphrey on him, one of the best man corners in the game, and Chase started noticing he had a very specific game plan. When he released vertically for his typical fade routes, Humphrey would fly backwards and over the top to shut down his favorite route. The back shoulder stuff was still there, but Humphrey was playing tight coverage and walling off the inside to take away the slant, forcing everything out to the perimeter. Humphrey mixed up his technique here and there. Sometimes he'd jam, sometimes he'd feather back or just play off. He was willing to give up the hitch route and the occasional back shoulder throw while trying to take away the fade with his speed and slant with his inside technique, so Chase used that against him. If he could sell his routes up the sideline first and get Humphrey to start moving that way, he could then come back to the inside since that's the last thing he'd be expecting. With Humphrey leveraged inside, Chase uses what's basically a diamond release, which by the book is a 3-step release outside to sell fade, then cut back in. But with the way he does his releases and times them up in his own special way, it looks kinda different. Here the back foot doesn't go back, and he tries to slow down, then speed up outside, and Humphrey bails deep like he has been all game. Even though Humphrey started with inside leverage, now his body isn't inside anymore. He's inside, but over the top, so after Chase sells upfield, he disengages his arm and, well, does the rest all by himself. Having a fastball that nobody can stop is one thing, but when a defense bases their entire game plan around stopping that fastball, and you're able to find a second pitch as a rookie, that is special. A few minutes later, the Bengals go back to 9-8-9, and Humphrey is still kinda playing over the top, but pretty hard to forget what just happened. Chase's release I'd best describe as the murderer in a horror movie menacingly walking towards the dude they're about to whack. And you can see Humphrey trying to gain his same depth, but also staying a little lower and inside because of the slant that just happened. Chase jabs inside to fake that slant and then tears up the sideline, once again not giving Burrow a ton of room to operate, but their magical back shoulder connection works again and will continue to work again and again and again. After this Ravens game, defenses finally started paying more attention to him with double teams or rotated coverages, which caused his numbers to dip. The Jets either kept a safety over the top of him, or when they were playing one high, they'd heavily shade that safety his way, but that opens up the entire rest of the field for Higgins, Boyd, Ozuma, and the boys, and after a few weeks of med production from Chase, he adjusted, fought through the adversity, and is now balling in the playoffs. It's rare to see a quarterback and receiver who already have this level of chemistry in just their first NFL year together. Really, it's rare to ever see this level of chemistry, so it's safe to say there's a very high level of excitement and promise for the Bengals offense in the present and future. Everybody was wrong about drafting Chase 5 overall, but we're also kind of right about needing to draft a lineman because Burrow has been getting obliterated week in, week out. I mean, 9 sacks last week. But still, he and Chase are dominating and the Bengals just keep winning. Chase is a fascinatingly rare player where his coach doesn't really scheme him open, just lets him get matchups one-on-one outside, and he doesn't really gain separation and has an extremely unique release package which gets him a little room off the line, but certainly not a ton. Magic in sports is typically an overblown phenomenon, but there's without a doubt magic to this young superstar duo. Burrow throws him passes like he's throwing on air, and no matter how close defenders are, it feels inevitable that Chase is gonna make every one of those plays. Not being able to stop something when you're in perfect position is scary, and ask anybody in the AFC, yeah, these Bengals are pretty frickin' scary. They've already beat the Chiefs in the regular season, but these playoff Chiefs are a little bit different. Burrow is gonna get his ass kicked, the Chiefs will have a plan to shut Chase down, but the way these guys are playing, irregardless, the magic is gonna happen.